morning. I'm Kimberly from Fat Quarter Shop. Today is February 16th, 2024. Huge shout out to Lori Holt. It's her birthday today, so if you guys want to tell her happy birthday on social media, that would be awesome. We have two amazing guests today. We have Mary Davis and Jeresther Page. They're two of our 4 designers for Stronger Together, and we're going to talk about their quilting journey. After that, we'll take a break and we're going to do a sew along where I kind of just talk a little bit about half square triangles and chain piecing and trimming down and using leftovers. So it's kind of going to be a long live stream. So I hope you guys can stay for the whole thing. And we're going to welcome our guests today. So first we have Mary Davis. She is the designer of the Stop and Stare block. She's a quilter, pattern designer, and a quilting instructor. She hosts an annual free motion summit online to inspire, educate, and empower quilters of all levels. And so her block is right here. Can we show that, Jordan? Oh, I have to pull it. Sorry. Da, 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 da. There's her block right there. Okay. And then Jeresther Page is a mother of 3, an elementary school teacher, and principal with a master's degree in education, considers teaching and quilting her passions. For this year's Stronger Together, she designed the school day block, which is right here. It's like this whole thing right here. So I would love to talk to both ladies about your quilting journey. So we'll start with you, Mary. Kind of tell me, how did your quilt journey start? How did you get into quilting?
Well, I started out as a seamstress. I was a garment maker for years and years and years. Loved that. But then, like right around the 90s, my mom started quilting and she did everything by hand. And I thought it was just really cool and wanted to learn myself. So I went and got a book at the store and made a quilt. And it's been nonstop ever since then. And it's just kind of evolved into a little bit of a business for me, which is fun.
So kind of how do you, the one thing that I think about sometimes is how do you think quilting has changed in all those years, like the style and the patterns and the books? Like, how do you think it's changed?
Well, initially, everything was like by hand, like the free motion quilting was by hand. But that's what I initially did because that's what the books told you to do. I mean, I wasn't looking really on YouTube. I don't know if it was that big back then. So I had to rely on books. So everything was kind of, I think it was all traditional quilts and it was all calicos, but in kind of browns and not really the fun colors that we have now.
Definite color change.
Yeah.
And then where can people tell us a little bit about your website, where people can find you, where you're going to be teaching?
My website is marygoaroundquilts.com and that's Mary. And I started, making patterns, I think 3 years ago. I took Quilters Candy's course and that kind of propelled me into having the confidence to not only write patterns, but I started a online course for free motion quilters. I also do a summit, which I'm going to be doing again later in the fall for free motion quilting. And it's just been a super fun journey learning how to do all this. And just it's just been empowering for me. I'm almost I'll be 60 this year. And I feel like if only I had done this when I was younger. So I'm really glad that I finally started to do what I love now.
So if somebody's wanting to learn to long arm quilt and they just have their regular sewing machine at home, are you able to help them, tell them how they can sign up, what they can look forward to on your website?
And the course that I have, we go over all of that. We go over how to set up your machine for free motion quilting if you're on a domestic. I sew personally on a sit-down long arm machine because I'm a bit of a speed demon and I can go really fast on that compared to my sewing machine. But I go over that on my course. I do a lot of free motion quilting videos on my Instagram page, which is the same thing at Mary Quilts.
And are you drawn to like a certain manufacturer of fabric or anything like that?
I don't think that I like any one particular. I just like what's pretty. Mm-hmm. I love flowers, and I do love calico prints. If I could afford the Liberty prints, I would get them. Oh, yeah. Those are a little pricey, but I really love florals, and I love pinks and blues and just fun colors. So I don't think I'm drawn to any one designer in particular.
And do you want to show us some of your quilts? We're going to try to reconnect. I don't know what happened there.
Okie doke.
Oh yeah, it says frozen. Okay. Oh, we're back. Okay, so keep going. Sorry, the YouTube just froze. That's all YouTube, not our fault. I have nothing to do with that.
That's fine. But I misspoke and I said Commerce, that's different quilt. This is the Manifest quilt. And the reason I call it the Manifest quilt is because I was watching a TV show called Manifest, and they had this pillow, a throw pillow on the couch that was like this, but it was in a really teeny strips. Mm-hmm. And I just couldn't take my eyes off it. I had to take a picture every time I was watching the show. When they were in the living room, I'm like, oh my God, there's that pillow. And so that inspired this quilt. The other quilt that I just wanted to show is one that I'm gonna be releasing soon. I haven't posted this one yet, but this one is called the Enchanting Diamonds, and still working on editing, but I will get that one out soon. And then I just wanted to show a little bit of my free motion quilting because I love it, and I discovered this thing called Zentangle drawing, which is drawing in like little tiny spaces. But when I was watching these videos, I was surprised how much it looked like free motion quilting. And so I just wanted to give it a try. So I've been doing having a little bit of fun and just kind of playing around with some of these, what they call Zentangle designs. And
oh, wow. It looks like embroidery.
Yeah. And it's really just, it's just feathers in a circle and more circles. But so that's a little bit of what I'm like really fascinated with now, is this Zentangle thing, and how much it can be translated into free motion quilting.
Y'all have to look that up. And then some people love the quilt behind you. Tell us about the quilt that's hanging behind you.
Oh, yeah. This is a free quilt that I did for Baby Lock. I'm an ambassador for them, and this is one of the free patterns that you can find on their website. It's just, I just called it something simple like strip piece triangle, something very generic. But yeah, it's so easy and so fun. I had a jelly roll, and I love jelly rolls. And I do have to say, Kimberly, I'm segueing, but when I did start quilting and I found your videos and stuff that you were doing, and that's when I discovered the pre-cuts and the jelly rolls and stuff, and I was like fascinated because you always did these things with these pre-cuts, and I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool. And so I still love jelly rolls.
Awesome.
So thank you.
Yay. So what Baby Lock do you sew on?
I have, for my domestic machine, I sew on the Baby Lock Lyric.
Okay.
And for my free motion quilting, I have the Baby Lock Regent, which again is a sit down long arm machine.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Now we're going to move to Jeresther. Sure. And I would love to hear your story. Like, how did you get into quilting? And, what's your journey? When did you start?
Oh, yes. Okay, so I started quilting and really getting maybe about now 8 years ago, 8 or 9 years ago. And it's funny because I'm sitting here and I'm fangirling both of you all because I just found so much and learned so much by watching. Y'all, I always joke and say the Fat Quarter Shop and Missouri Star taught me how to quilt along with the Sweet Little Ladies in
Oh.
Lancaster, Pennsylvania. In Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and then Fulton, Maryland. Because we were on a relocation, and my girls were like, "Mom, you're always talking about grandma's quilts, and you want to learn how to quilt, and great grand is gone now, so maybe you should." And I'm like, "You guys, I think that's just like a whole lot. I just like to keep admiring them." And then my daughter was bicycling around this little neighborhood that we had moved in, and they had this sweet little quilt shop, and she goes, "Mom, I have found the place for you. Those are your people. You need to go talk to them." And I went in, I had no clue. I was like, "Hey, so I want to take a quilting thing," and they're like, "Can you piece?" And I was like, "Yeah, I piece out all the time. I have so much peace in my heart. I can piece." And they're like, "No, no, 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 no. Can you?" And they're like, "Take this fabric and cut it apart and make it into something." And I was like, "Sure, I can do those things." And they signed me up for this totally like advanced and um, hand quilting, and I still have them all. And I did all of this beautiful hand piecing, and I kept on passing all their machines in the shop. And I'm like, "Yeah, but what are those?" And they're like, "No, no, no, Jeresther dear, we're gonna keep on." And so everything was by scissors because it was all hand pieced, and I was making these beautiful, y'all, these beautiful hand piece blocks, but they were all hand pieced. And I'm like, "Yeah, but this Kimberly and this Jenny Dawn lady on YouTube, they're doing some other stuff, and it's like really fast." And they're like, "No, this is a course, and you are going to learn how to do all of this with precision and piecing." And I was like, "Okay, I love you all." And so I did that, but I snuck over like 15 minutes away to this other quilt shop, and they had like all these big long arms and these fat and the sewing machines, and they were so between the two, I took two classes, a sewing and a hand piecing. Hand piecing I love because it truly taught me precision and to take time and make sure I get that right. And that really helped me on my piecing journey. So then when I stumbled into quilting, because my husband is hearing all this and I'm talking about these big machines, and he goes and buys me for my anniversary this HQ Sweet 16 that he had been texting with someone and or however, and he brought it and he was so excited. We went to pick it up, I think in Boston, because we were in Maryland, and we drove to get this, and I'm thinking it's going to be some kind of little cute thing, and I'm like, "I have no clue how to use it. What are you talking?" And then, but I'm smiling. I'm like, "I better go figure it out." So I go back to the handy quilter shop, and they're like, "Well, point out which one you think he just bought you." And I was like, "I think it's that one." And they were like, "Oh, it's Sweet 16. It's a sit down. You have all this sit down." They told me how to put it all together, and just started playing around with it. And then again, I told my husband, once I got into a handy quilter, thought my story was hilarious as I stumbled into quilting. So it was one of those things that I always wanted to do it. I was with all of my master's work and of course being a mom and a principal, but getting to that one quiet place where I could go and learn has been exciting. So I always say I'm the collected kind of quilter piecer. I like a bit of everything. I like things that just inspire me. I teach little classes with all my mom's groups and different student groups and have a lot of fun doing that. We make up patterns with students and then we help them make that into something. And I always kind of put piecing and pattern like education. When we're thinking about kiddos, you just find what pieces work together and you put them back together so beautifully, and and then you take the quilt, and that quilting on top of it is just sealing it all together. And so yes, my journey is kind of wholehearted collecting, but a lot of fun, and and I'm willing to try everything and lots of fun little new things.
So tell everybody how they can find you online.
So you can find me at on IG at It's So Sweet CB on Instagram, and I am there, and I answer messages. I send links to different things. Because what I found is a lot of folks who never thought they wanted, have always wanted it, but never knew where to start, reach out a lot to me, and pretty much the most. So I'm always trying to send great little chats about don't be afraid. Sometimes you just got to jump in
Yep.
and just do it with all joy.
Yeah, and everyone's saying you have a great husband, so you'll have to tell him he gets like 10 brownie points from all the ladies that are commenting. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's, you know what, it's kind of fun. He's definitely been encouraging, because 2 years ago in the middle of the pandemic, he's always out there looking, and he found my HQ, my long arm, that is with a pro stitcher, that, don't ask me, I'm still learning to use it, and it's fun. It's another one of those things. So I am definitely one who tells folks free motion is a lot of fun. You practice and keep trying. Don't be afraid to use pantos or edge to edge to really get you in there and get it going. So you can just feel confident as you're doing it in the motion, and getting into it, but don't be afraid. You don't have to have these major
Quilts.
pro stitcher machines that are quilt, and these major quilt. You just have to want to create, to want to do it, and want to have that whole piece thing that I started with.
That is so funny. Can you show us some of your quilts?
Yeah, so one of my favorite things that we love to do, my daughter and I, if I'm sorry, my daughter Imani is my quilt buddy, but y'all, she just like whips it out, right? But every year for her college dorm, we found a new quilt pattern that she wanted to piece. So she would takes on these major piecing projects, and then I quilt it for her on my long arm. And it's kind of fun, because if I'm doing a panto board and I'm working from the back, she kind of watches me from the front to make sure. So this is one that we had done, and it was on her bed. And I just love it, because it was all of that. It was the envelope quilt. We got the pattern, and she just, and that became our summer thing every summer. And then this was her very first quilt in high school, and at my cute little quilt shop. And she made all of us ladies just like what, because she just ran through it. And then I came back around, and we added the stitches, because that's another thing that you can do if you don't have the big learned arm. Like, learn about those fun stitches that you have on your sewing machine. And this one was cool for us, because it was a lot of the cool little stitching, and we just used the different stitches that we had on our sewing machine. And so that's always fun. And one of my sweet little mom groups that I've been working with has finally finished one of their quilts that we kind of made up a pattern for, and then I quilted for her on my long arm. And now I told her I have to teach you the next part, and it is squaring that up and doing the binding, because that is not my favorite part. So
can you show
again,
any of the quilts? Can you bring any of the quilts from the ladder and show them up close,
yeah,
so they can see the stitching?
yes. So grab this one. So again, so this one up close, this one is what we did. We wanted to use our decorative stitches from our sewing machine. So we sewed it all together on our domestic sewing machine, and then we went back and found all the decorative stitches that we could add to it to give it that bang, because we were still learning how to quilt. So that's one. This is one where I tell folks it is okay to use panto boards and be all right with quilting from the back, because that's exactly what this is. And so it just comes out, just finding different panto boards that you might like, are, well, we groovy boards, if they're from, depending on the place where you're buying them. I get groovy boards from um, but panto boards, panto patterns, different ones, and just have fun with it, picking them out, because you get this beautiful quilting, and you can go with high density, you can go space, but it can last. And then again, I tell a lot of folks, when you have those great wonderful piecing projects and you really want your piecing projects to be the showstopper, then that's when I get in and I try to use my ruler as best and possible, and I get in there and I just kind of do a lot of stitch in the ditch, and make sure, because we really wanted all of her envelopes to stick out, and so more of the see those than necessary a pattern. So, and that's when we went in the ditch.
Awesome. And I think I spy a Lori Holt block on your back wall.
Yes, that is, and I'm luckily my mama doesn't have, she's not on YouTube or Instagram, because I am working on that quilt for my mom, and I'm so excited. And every time I look at the centerpiece, it just inspires me to keep working on the rest of it. And I actually started that with Fat Quarter Shop of one of the Lori Holt's sew along, and so now I am able to I'm doing that. I'm finishing that for my mom. I'm so excited.
Awesome. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Stronger Together for everybody, just so that everybody knows about the quilt and they can join us along. I want to show the quilt right here. And this started on February 1st, and the sew along is going to go all the way from February 1st to February 29th. And then what we're doing here is raising money for UNCF. 100% of your donations go directly to UNCF for underrepresented students to earn a college degree, and we're only 64% to our goal of $5,000. Now, I will tell you, in 2021 we raised $13,000. In 2022 we raised $17,000. In 2023 we raised $15,000. So you guys got to start donating. And this is the free pattern. You can download this free. And we had 4 designers design with us: Mary Davis Jeresther Page, Vicki Plybon, and Cherise Nicole. And Cherise Nicole and Vicki are going to be on our site on March 1st. So you'll want to come and join. And then this is the fabric that we used, and it was all picked by those designers. And let's do some Q&A. Let's see what questions have come in. We've gotten some questions about what are your best tips for beginners when you're shopping? And I haven't ever asked this question before. When you're shopping for a long arm, like what would you look for if you were just in the market for that? So I'll start with Mary.
For me, oh, sure. For me personally, I think you got to consider your space is the biggest thing. Do you have space for a 10, 12-foot frame in your house or not? If you don't, you want to choose a sit-down quilting machine, and that's what I have. Well, for 2 reasons. One was because of space. It has a table that an extension table that I can fold up and down, so it doesn't take up a lot of room. And 2, you have to consider if you want to stand all that time at your machine. And for me, I just had a knee replacement, and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to, when I got the machine, that I couldn't stand for hours at a machine. But once I get my new knees, look out, because I might be getting a regular long arm.
Big one. Okay, what about you, Jeresther?
So it's kind of the same. As we said, I kind of fell into mine, but now when I always tell folks looking in, and I will let them try both of my machines, but I have my Sweet 16 on stationary, but I changed it to a Capri table so I can have the lift go up and down, because sometimes I would say, if you want, because sometimes I do need to stand up, but then sometimes I want my high stool because of, all of those, things that I've had. But definitely, I agree with Mary. It's the space, because what was so funny, my cute little studio was supposed to also, sub for an extra guest space. And then when my long arm came in, I was like, well, that couch looks great downstairs too. Definitely knowing your space and knowing that, don't realize that it's a journey, and so you'll learn to use the machine, like you will learn. But if you're going to be a first time quilter, I'm glad that I gradually worked my way up. I'm glad that I started at a domestic machine with that itty bitty throat, and then finally moved up to one with a bigger throat. And then when I finally got to, and they helped me set up my Sweet 16, and I had all that great 16-inch throat space, and I could move things around. I had so gradually built up. And know, if you jump in a big one, don't be discouraged, but go ahead and sign up for a whole lot of courses and classes to help you along your way. And there are so many great price ranges now. Mine both are handy quilters. However, there are so many out on the market, and I say definitely shop the market, shop your price point. Don't be afraid. I will say I have had great luck with used secondhand long arm, because it's definitely, and it's still a big investment, but I've had great luck with that, because most of the long arm companies out there in the industry provides a lot of good service. And so that's another thing. Make sure what you're looking for, the service providers for that machine, is in your area, because you don't want to have to travel 2 hours, 3 hours to someone who can properly service that big old machine that you have to lug down or lug to wherever into the car, because they do need to be properly serviced. And it's great to have local folks that you can go in and they can talk to you and they can give you some tips and some tricks, and to help out.
Mm-hmm. And then, Jeresther, do you have a fabric collection coming up that you're looking forward to?
Do I have a
fabric collection that's going to be coming soon that you're super excited about?
A fabric collection that's going to be coming soon that I'm super excited about. I do. I have a couple fabric collections that are coming out soon that I'm super excited about, that I'm doing with Riley Break, and we are as ambassador, and we're going to be, I have gone flannel crazy. I don't know why, but I have. And so I am going to be doing some fun with Riley Break flannel crazy. And it is so, and I can't grab it right now. I've gotten overexcited, but I'm going to be making lots of baby inspired quilts, a lot this spring, getting ready. And they're all, I don't know, something happened. I got hooked on flannel, and it's becoming so much fun, and it quilts so beautifully.
It does. What about you, Mary?
I keep seeing, I like the florals, and I've seen this print called, I think it said Duckadilly. I don't know if that was the company or the print, but it was this floral, and it looks like Liberty. It probably was Liberty now that
it probably was.
It, but I just love that, and I love to get some of that and start working with it, because I just love the traditional. I like old fashioned. So.
And what kind of thread do you use on your long arm machine and your domestic machine? So I'll start with Mary.
I have a lot of Aurifil from when I was an Aurifil ambassador, but so I use a ton of that. I also have some, oh my gosh, I'm blanking. It's not Signature.
Glide?
I can't remember. Yeah, Glide. Thank you.
Yeah.
Love that. I hadn't used polyester, and I love the sheen. I love how it works in my machine. I almost like it a little better than the cotton, but I use, when I free motion quilt, I like to be able to see the stitching. So I like to use 40 weight. I do have 50. So usually 50 weight is what I piece with, and 40 or 50, actually whatever is what I use the most in my long arm quilting.
Okay, what about you, Jeresther? What thread do you use?
Okay, so for my long arm quilting, I've mostly used Superior thread, and love that. But for all of my other domestic machines, I mostly use Arafil. But and I think that I like, and I definitely uh I had to think about it too. I use and I do go between the 40 and 50 weight as well, but I love and so I'm looking over at both of my machines right now, and on one side of my machine I can see the little orange order fill top, and on the other side I can see the little white, so Superior thread, so it might be a little equal there, but for my two machines, all of my machines, I feel like those threads have done the best, and they have the least amount of um what is that, the lint that
Lint.
builds up in the butt.
Yeah.
Yes, it seems like they really do the best for that, but I do venture out and have tried some other great threads too, but in my main machines and for my main sewing is those two brands.
So can one of y'all explain what's the difference between the 40 weight and the 50 weight? And is that with Arafil and with Superior, or just for people who don't know anything about the thread? Because I don't really.
Um, well, the numbers of the thread, the higher the number, the thinner the
Okay.
thread strand. So 80 weight and 100 weight are going to be really super fine. 40 weight, 50 weight, it just gets thinner as you go down. So if you go to 28, or I'm sorry, thicker as you go down. So
40's
the lower
thicker.
the number, the thicker the thread.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
And
when
I just want to say that
oh, go ahead.
if people don't have like Glide or Superior or Aurifil, that doesn't mean that you can't use anything in your machine. Just experiment and find what works for you, and go what's in your price point.
Yeah. And then what I
I would
wanted to
agree.
end with is, since we're hoping everybody joins the Stronger Together quilt along, what tips would you have with starting with a quilt at this level? Of course, you guys designed this with a beginner in mind, but what tips would you give to somebody starting out if they're starting with this quilt? We'll start with Jeresther.
Oh my gosh, I would tell you definitely follow the directions. That is why I think I was one of y'all's first original box description
Oh,
for fat quarters, and I have lots of those quilts. But follow the directions and really read, because when I first started, I was like, I could do all of this. This is great, and then I'm like, I need to go back to the store and get some more fabric. So
so
follow
you
the
cut it wrong.
directions and pay attention to what the seam directions, because that does matter. All of those things so matter, and I'm talking to you from experience. And it's like, oopsie. So definitely read through all the directions and follow directions and set your things up, and it's a lot, and it makes it go well when you have it all cut out and stacked up nicely. And I know I have the cute little tabs from fat quarter shops that you can help you label everything. But if you don't have access from those, the little cute little small sticky note
Yeah.
packs, because I
Yeah.
love, as a principal, I love
Please.
sticky notes. Yes,
Yeah.
just write the letters
Yeah.
and the things on those, and just have everything stacked and laid out neatly. And then you've done that and you're so great. Now go have a cherry coke, and then the next day get ready to do all of do it parts, and just take your time, because it is designed with a beginner in mind, that you can just go through these blocks and have an enjoyable experience.
Okay, what about you, Mary?
I think that's so hilarious, because I too, I say take your time, read through the directions first. When you're cutting your pieces, I personally like to cut the bigger pieces first, and then I'll cut the smaller pieces, because at first I was just going to just go to town, and I'm like, wait a second, if I cut it this way, I'm not going to have enough for my big squares. And so, like Jeresther said, I used sticky notes. I cut everything out. I used sticky notes. And as best as I tried, I was kind of in a hurry when I put mine together. I'm like, gotta hurry, because I knew I was going to have surgery. And then I was like all proud of myself. And I finished and I looked at it and I'm like, oh my God, I sewed Jeresther's quilt. The bow is backwards. And I'm like, how on earth did I? And I didn't even notice until I had the whole thing done. So take your time and definitely read through the directions. There's a lot of pieces, so it's just, got to take a little bit of patience.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, ladies, for joining me today. After the video ends, I'm hoping that people will ask individual questions so that you guys can go back and, if they have any questions about your long arm or your patterns or anything, so that you guys can answer those. And we hope you're able to join us again for Stronger Together in 2025.
Thank you.
Thank you.
interview. I loved it. I learned a little bit about long arm quilting since, you know, I don't do any of that. So hopefully you guys liked it, and make sure when you're sharing your Stronger Together quilt, you add the hashtag so that maybe next week we can show people's progress on that. I did want to let you know Kevin has been working on something behind the scenes, and what he did is he added a new text service for Fat Quarter Shop. So Jordan's going to show you how you can sign up for that. You can go to our website, scroll to the bottom, and then you see that little pink arrow. It says sign up for text. Then you would go to that screen, and then when you get to that screen, you just put your first name and your phone number, and then we're going to be sending out twice a week, maybe Tuesdays, Thursdays, exclusive deals straight to your phone. And so from your phone, you'll be able to shop, and that is going to be used exclusively for deals and sales. It's going to have nothing to do with live streams or anything. So just so you guys know, but definitely would love for you guys to sign up. That's something new that we're trying, and we did some really great specials this week. And so I don't want you to miss any of those. And then another thing is, each month we try to bring you one Sew With Me, where I try to take something from my real life sewing journey and show you, and just give you some type of tips, hoping that maybe you'll pick something up that I've just learned along the 25 years of quilting. So I'm going to show you a picture of a quilt that I sewed last summer, and I sewed it in August, and it was this quilt, and you can see the hearts. And the bottom of those hearts, when you cut those off, you have leftover fabric. So from that, like right there on the bottom right of that, let me see if I can find one that matches. When you cut that off, you get two fabrics. I'm trying to find one that matches, but so like right here, see how there's like right there, you're going to get, when you trim that off right there, you're going to get this left over, and it's going to look like this. And those are big pieces. And so I have this whole stack left over. Look at this, 91 squares from that quilt, because that quilt, I made that for Emma for Christmas, and it's a queen size quilt. That is a lot of fabric that you just don't want to get rid of. So I decided to save all of those, and then what I did is I took them, press them open just so I wouldn't have to think about the layout, because I didn't know how it would look. And what I did to figure out what size to do is I took a ruler, and I figured out that 4.5 would definitely not be wide enough, you can tell. And then 4 inches was like the biggest that I could get from that cut. So basically just put a Creative Grids ruler with a diagonal on the seam, cut, and then what I did is just cut the 4 inches from there. And then when I'm cutting it, I just make sure I've got it lined up here and here. And I just have a tiny bit left over. You know, I just waste so basically my goal was to waste as little as possible, but to still have all of this. So I have a total of 91. And she doesn't need another quilt for her room, so I decided I'm just going to put this quilt together, and I'm going to give it away in the future on a members only live stream. So if you have subscribed to our members only, you might get a chance to win this. So when I was at retreat, I always keep notes. I don't even remember writing this. Denise had to show it to me, and I was like, what are you even talking about? But this is what I do to remember what to do with future fabrics so that I don't waste anything. And so when I got home from retreat, I was playing with electric quilt, and I just put 8 by 8. Just, I mean, obviously I could do 8 by 10. I could make it bigger. I can do whatever, but I just laid it out in electric quilt using, you know, just 2 colors, which obviously this is more than 2 colors. And so I did this, and if you want to know how to use electric quilt, I finally did a video called How to Draw and Color Quilt Blocks in Electric Quilt. And so basically this was just kind of my idea of what to do with it. Now obviously this would be a lot easier to lay out if it was light and dark, but mine is not. Mine is darks, mediums, and lights. and I want to be able to use most of them. So what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to start laying them out. We'll see how it looks. We'll move stuff around, and then I'm going to show you how to put together the first 2 rows and give you some tips on chain piecing. And everyone does it a little bit different. But basically, I'm just going to lay these out. I'm just going to lay, I'm not even going to consider the color. I'm just going to lay them out. Is this as far as we can go out? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There, okay. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And basically, I'm just turning my diagonals all the same way because I'm going to change it, but I think it's easiest to just lay them out all one way to start, and then you've got something. So we'll do that. And we are not reordering the Kimberly Cuts 12-inch rulers at this time. The minimum on that product is just too high. We couldn't meet the minimum a second time. But there are, I think there's a Creative Grids one that's similar. It's just not as cute. Let me see. And you could use a design board, like a Cheryl's design board, that, or a piece of felt or something like that. But for me, I just felt like with all these pieces, when I was doing a video, I felt like the pieces might just start going all over the floor and I would be embarrassed and have to bend down a million times. So I just decided I would just do this. And you can see some of these match, but I'm going to try to move them where the ones that match are not together. But first we just need to get, my goal is just to lay out 8 by 8. So that's 5. Okay, 6, 7, 8. And if y'all have any questions, just pop them in and I'll try to answer them as I'm laying this out. You guys can let me know if you guys ever do stuff like this. And the great thing about when I did the 8 by 8, I think I did that just because that way I would have enough room for color placement since I have so many duplicates. And then I could put on the back, I could put a row of these also. This fabric is Peachy Keen by Corey Yoder. So I could just throw this together, right? And when you look at it, you kind of have to look, where does your eye go? And my eye goes here because those two are the same. So obviously I would move that. This is kind of hard to do on camera. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these off. It's too hard to do all of it at once. I'm going to take these off so that we can see better. It's distracting me. And then I think I can get, it'll look better if I do it this way. So right here, I'm gonna just, at these 4, I'm gonna kind of look at my options. So we've got some options. We could do like this. These two are the same, so we could kind of do that. And you kind of get the look of a chevron. So that's one look that we could do. And that's kind of why I do these pages, is so that I have somewhere to start. And then you saw it already like this. And I kind of thought that was just kind of boring. So I don't really want to do that. This one's the same thing. It's actually the same exact thing because there's no light and dark. It's all mediums, dark. So that's actually the same exact thing. I just didn't think that through when I was working with electric quilt. This one would be totally awesome, but I feel like it's not going to keep the design because there are too many colors. So I don't think this one will work, just based on laying it out. And then this one I think would look good. So this one, if we did something like this, I would do it a little bit more like this, where I put all the same colors in the center. But the outside, there's no way with all of this you would be able to get the outsides the same. So that would be, let's see, like that. So I'll try to do that real quick. And this is a fun thing to do. You could have your kids do this. You could just say, you know, do this random and see what you come up with and see what your kids come up with. You would be surprised at how creative they can be. So that's really cute, and that would make a really cute placemat. So I'm gonna do a couple more. Let's see, I'm gonna do dark blue here. And the thing with this that's gonna bug me is so many are gonna touch. So that might bug me. So I think what I'm gonna do, I think this would be really cute. I think what I'm gonna do is just do 4 by 6 just to show you. But what kind of looks good to me is this and this. See how those alternate? This alternates with this. This alternates with this. To get this to alternate, I would need to like move that with that. These I would move here. That would move there. Let's see, stripe would go there. This would go here. So to me, that looks good. Do you like that? Yeah, I think that looks good. Now, of course, if you're gonna do this, now I have 91 squares, so I think I have enough. But right now I'm gonna talk about chain piecing, and so that was kind of color theory, color placement. And you can see when you're doing it, your eye is just gonna go to one spot, which is what, you know, and I think that adding the 2 alternates, it kind of just helps it be a little tiny bit cohesive. So what I like to do when I'm going to chain piece, I'm going to show you what I do. Is I'm going to do just like this. So I'm just going to put them right on top of each other, exactly the way they are. Put them here. So I've kept them the same. Keep them the same way. And I'm going to chain piece this whole thing and kind of show you how to do it. And then I'm going to put a little pin in the top left. And what that's going to do is that's going to tell me, we can zoom in now, that's going to tell me if I go to the restroom or if I go to see a movie or whatever, if I leave the house. When I come back, I know I'm starting here, I'm not starting here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these 2 together. I'm going to pull this down a little bit. And I'm going to pin everything all at once because it makes it easier on this first row only. And I'm going to pin at the top and the bottom. The star could definitely be the center and then you could work out. That would be great. What's the answer to that question? No. We're not doing Stronger Together cross stitch this year. And then which Bella Solid closely matches when used in moonbeams? Probably color 200 would be my guess. And that's because that is the color that Sherry and Chelsea use the most. If I'm speaking correctly, I think I am though. We are getting more vintage sunburst paper. The delay there is, there's been a delay at the printer getting the paper produced, because we use a specific type of paper, and so that's been the issue. So you just kind of pin as you go. If you guys have any tips on chain piecing, definitely put them in the comments. Now when I'm stitching, I'm going to stitch with like a 2.0, 1.5 stitch length. Just the normal stitch length, just normal thread. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to chain all the way. I'm not going to break my thread. So I'm going to sew here. I'm going to take about 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. Stitch. Take 4 stitches. Go here. So just kind of watch what I'm doing, and then we'll go to the ironing table and you'll kind of see what I'm going for. Take a few stitches. Now, if you have a machine that's not, maybe a machine that's not great with fabric bunching, you might not be able to do those stitches. It might start making a bird's nest, but my machine will let me do it. And I'm just keeping everything in the order that it was on my board. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this back up, and the top left, I'm going to put a pin in this fabric so that I remember that is my top left, so I don't accidentally flip and put the wrong fabric the wrong way. So then I will go to my ironing station, and I'm just going to press half one way and half the other. And last week, I'll tell you my little iron story in a second. So when I'm doing these, I usually will go those that way, and then I'll flip these. Go the other way. Okay, I'm not gonna break the chain, so I'm gonna go back up here. And what I'm gonna do is you can either add the pieces and pin, or just add as you go. I think it's easier at this point to add as you go instead of pin each one. And so what I'll do is when I get to the sewing machine, maybe I'll pin the first one. We'll sew that, make a couple of stitches, then I'll pin this, and then I'll keep going. And I am going to tell my iron story, I promise. I'll tell my iron story in a little bit. Okay, here it's important to take a couple stitches and then add the next piece. If you don't take a couple of stitches, it will get really, like it'll kind of, like there won't be enough space to iron, if that makes sense. And then you just add as you go. And when you're doing chain piecing, like I said, if I make this one 8 by 10, I could do, 8 by 10 and do the whole thing like this. Or I could do rows and then add the rows together. You can do it however you want. Trying this method, it's always best to start small, take it slow. Don't do a king size quilt or something like this because that might be a little much. I'm just making sure I had it the right way. This one's easy to get out of order since it's not really light, dark, light, dark. Now right there, that is off, and I do not like that. So I'm going to fix that. To fix that, I'm going to cut threads every couple stitches, just where the seam started to get off. And then from the other side, you'll be able to just pull that stitch out. And then this is when the floor in my sewing room just gets completely messy with all this thread. Then I'll put that back like it's supposed to be and then sew over that again. Okay, so the story with my iron, do you think you'll be able to hear it over my iron? Can y'all hear me over the iron? So my twins had to do a science project. No, it wasn't science. What was that subject you told me? Liberal arts, what was it? The revolutionary, I don't know. I don't even know what course it is. I just know they have A's in it. History. So they had to do this t-shirt. Well, they did where you iron the stickable, fusible on there. Well, one of my sons decided his shirt needed to have 3. Well, what did I do? I accidentally put the iron right on top of it after I had stuck it down. And so I had to clean my iron like crazy. It was, it had brown everywhere. So I used like 3 different iron cleaners. It took me like 2 hours. I'm not even kidding. It was so dirty, but I got it all clean. But I told them they can't do that again. Like, you can't use my iron. And I thought by me doing it, that of course I wouldn't mess it up because I know what I'm doing. But you know, it was late at night. Okay, so here I'm gonna do that same thing. I'm just gonna start stitching. And the bigger your item gets, the harder it is to manipulate. So you just have to be comfortable with what size you're doing. If y'all heard that yawn, that was my son in the background. He's fallen asleep. One of my sons. He doesn't want to be on camera though, he said. So here you can see it starts being like a little, I don't know, like it just starts being like a flimsy. This Laura Star that I'm using is the Smart Use system. It's amazing. I mean, I love it. I can get a lot of stuff done quicker. And Donna asked what my favorite project is I'm working on, and I'm gonna tell y'all a little secret. My favorite project I'm working on right now is anything foundation paper piece, because I have taught Emma how to do that. And she is going to, this weekend, help me sew my Starburst and my log cabin and all kinds of things. So now here, I'm gonna leave these little tails, not tails, but like strings, leave them there unless you're gonna press open. If you're gonna press open, you have to cut that off. I can take this out now because it doesn't really matter where the top is. I'm gonna put this together and I will, like, if you pressed one way on the top and then one way on the other, it's gonna nest. So I'm just going to nest that right there and pin. And then I'm going to show you a trick on how to do this quicker. Carrie asks if I starch pre-cuts. I do, but you just have to, okay, now here, you do want these two to line up. So I am gonna cut that one just so I can make sure that it looks like it lines up. You just have to use a pattern that accounts for shrinkage. So it can't be a pattern that uses the entire layer cake or the entire jelly roll. You can buy the iron itself alone. There are different models on our website, and there's some that are just stationary. So there's a bunch of different ones. Okay, so there. Now from here, I wouldn't try to put that together because that's just too much. Too much pins, too close together. So what I'll do is I'm going to turn it around, and I'm going to do the other end. Because I want to be efficient, but I don't want to be too efficient. Like if you start putting too many rows together at one time, you're going to have a jumbled mess. Ask me how I know. And then it just will kind of get, the pins will kind of get in your way, if that makes sense. Do I cut yardage into smaller sections when I'm starching? Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I always cut my borders, length of fabric before I do anything else in my quilt. Okay, so I've got the two ends done. And you could do this one also. I'm not, because I think it's just gonna be too much. So what I'll do is I'm gonna sew this, flip it around, and sew this. I'll leave that there. And here, when you're doing something like this, this is when it's great to have your machine flush with a table, because you've got all this stuff on the left and it keeps it kind of flat for you and it doesn't start flipping. Then I'm going to flip that around. Do the same thing on the other side. Okay, then I'm going to iron this. Can you starch the haberdashery quilt that came in the Sew Sampler box? I think you can. We can have Nova let Ashley know. Nova can look that up and let Ashley know just so we give them the correct answer. The Millie's dresses started already, right, Denise? Yeah, it started already. So that one I'm also going to work on this weekend. So this one, I just pressed every which way. Now, obviously, if I'm going to join this to something else, I should pay attention to that. But since I'm not worrying about that right now, I'm just going to press whichever way. And you can see I've kind of got everything still going the same way. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the center one first, because that will get the bulk out of the way. Then I'll come back and do the remaining two. And we are going to have a giveaway today, so you'll want to wait for that. And we are going to show what's new. I just want to make sure I get all of this done so that I can kind of show you. Am I going to be doing a nighttime live stream in the future? Yes, in March, right? Oh, it's a Saturday one. I don't have a nighttime one scheduled yet. Okay. Is there a certain line of patterns that allows for shrinkage? Each pattern you just have to look at individually. Some designers are more liberal with their fabric requirements, some are not. Do I ever use magic pins with the fork that are forked pins? I don't. Lori one year for my birthday gave me some forked pins, and I tried them and I kept them, but I don't use them often. But Lori loves them. Okay, let's see. I think you're amazing. You can talk and sew with these squares in the right direction. That's concentration. Well, we haven't finished yet, and I usually make a mistake, so we still have time. And yes, you can starch haberdashery, Pamela Emery says. So, and I know she makes a lot of our quilts, so she would definitely know. You need a needle minder on the throat plate of your machine. I have a cutter on my machine. I do have that. Okay, so I'm going to do this one. And now, see how big it's getting? I can easily do this one now because there's enough space between it. And I used to try to do all the rows at one time, and that just does not work. Obviously, you have to do what you're comfortable with, but kind of starting on one end, going to another is a nice way to do it. I think starching helps prevent fraying, but you're always going to have some bit of fraying. The smaller the pieces, the more you touch the fabric, the smaller the block, the more fraying you are going to have. And every brand of fabric frays differently. How do I pin without your fabric shifting? So I'm just kind of keeping it like this, and I just make sure I kind of keep it far enough apart, and then when I'm sewing, I'll sew and I'll try to take that pin out right before I sew on it. Now I will tell you, last weekend I broke about 8 pins. Not broke, but bented, because I was in a hurry and I was going fast. I do not recommend sewing over pins, and I actually try not to. Last weekend was just a little bit of a mess, and I sewed over and broke a bunch. I actually think I'm gonna have to buy a new package of pins because of that. But I was in a hurry and I was ready to get stuff done. And then just turn it around. Oh, this is a great question, Kathy. How do you decide whether to press open or to one side? So on something like this, it's beginner, you know, it's not intricate. I'm just not going to worry about it. I'll press to one side. I would say 90% of the quilts I make at home, I press open. 90% of what I do is just pressed open because it does take longer. But when I'm at home, I don't want to have to move my pattern from my cutting table to my sewing table to my ironing table and back and back and back and back. So if I just press open, I don't have to think. So that is kind of my go-to at home. That's kind of what I do at home. So let's see if I made any mistakes. I don't think I did. Oh, I kept it. Okay, so that's how you do that. And what I would say is when you're doing something like this, if you're doing a quilt, like for example, the one I'm going to put on the table right now to show you, I'm going to show it to you real quick and talk about how you could do this one in a chain piece and how I would do it differently. So this is the Spruce Star quilt kit, and we have a video on this. It's an advanced quilt, and it's a quilt where you cut a fat quarter up into a lot of different pieces, and you make a lot of different half square triangles. And our goal with this was to give you the most use of a fat quarter as you could. Now, if I was sewing this, I'm going to kind of move this over. I would not chain piece this like this. No way. That's not how I would do that. What I would do is I would take these skinny rows where you've got a rectangle, square, rectangle, square, rectangle. I would do all of those, stop. Then I would add this, stop. Then I would start adding. So I would do some chain piecing in that I would kind of sew these and these, stop, and then sew this and this, but I would not chain piece like all the way down. That will not work as well because you've got skinny and big, big and skinny. And with that, you're gonna find your stuff just crunches up and it doesn't go everywhere. With this, everything was the same size. It was easy to tell and feel where things were. Oh, and I gotta fix that. Like for example, Kathy, on this one, the reason I pressed open is I wasn't sure what design I was going to do. And so to me, it's just easier to press open because then I have more options when I start laying things out. And yeah. Okay, so this is the Spruce Star kit. It's 57 inches square. The free video has been out for a while. It's a free PDF pattern, and it uses, like I said, 3 different triangle papers. Designed by Jocelyn, pieced by Teresa, quilted by Gina Tell, and we do have the quilt kits in stock now. Usually we put the videos live before the quilt kits, and we just hadn't shown this one since we cut the kits. So that is Spruce Star. And then I'm going to show you what's new. So we're going to zoom in. This one I'm going to open because I love it. So Riley Blake always has great patriotic collections, always. This is Bev McCullough, who I personally love. And this is called Sweet Freedom. I'm going to show you the fabric. So this one has a touch of metallic. And kind of like we were talking about earlier in the video, you know, things change over the years. And 20 years ago, if you would have bought a metallic fabric, it would have been sticky and it would have been hard to sew through. And now you can see that metallic isn't like that. It is nice and subtle. So it's got some gold. Not all the prints have it, but some do. So I'm going to show you all the prints. This one is Barnes with gold on the top. Fireworks, flowers, flags. And then this is that same floral. And with Riley Blake fabrics, we always get them in fat quarters, charm packs, 10-inch squares, roly-polies, yardage, and fat quarter bundles. Sometimes we have half-yard bundles. Sometimes we don't. So that is Sweet Freedom by Bev McCullough. But what I want to show you next to this is out of all the needle binders we sell, which is, you know, a lot of vendors, probably 30 vendors, Bev McCullough's sell the best. I buy the most needle binders from her. Every Sunday night, I send her a humongous order, and they keep selling. So the ones that she put out 5 years ago are still selling. And with each collection, she puts out needle minders to match. So, I mean, look how cute that is. It's got hearts in the background. This one matches the collection, and this one matches the collection. These two are just for fun. So these are great for just all kinds of things. So cute. And she has some new cross-stitch patterns, which I will be showing next Wednesday on my cross-stitch channel, which is Fat Quarter Shop Floss Tube, if you want to subscribe to that channel. Our next collection by Riley Blake is called Heirloom Red by My Mind's Eye. And this one, I had something interesting to be able to tell you guys. So on this one, we bought 1-yard bundles. So Riley Blake sometimes offers 1-yard bundles with their collections. We don't buy them that often because they're very expensive and they're out of a lot of people's price points. So we just don't buy them. But Kevin and I saw this collection and I was like, we have got to buy 1-yard bundles because they're shaded in the 3 different shades of red. And I just think this is going to be a fabulous collection. So you can kind of see the different shades. This is more maroon, this is more red. And with those 1-yard bundles, you can kind of zone in on the color you're looking for, if that makes sense. And again, My Mind's Eye. And I was thinking about that earlier. I was talking to Lori last night, and we have some stuff planned. But we have this amazing book that's going to come out soon. And we are already talking about the book after that. And it made me think of something that I've done with her in the past that's red and white. But it's just something fun that you guys get to look forward to because, you know, we work on her books like so far in advance. The donations for Moonbeams, we can look up those donations and see where we're at. Now this collection is Laundry Basket Quilts, and she is a designer with Andover Fabrics. I'm going to open this. We're at $7,800, $29. Yay! So we're a long way from our goal, but that's better. So this is Sewing Basket. Now, Sewing Basket is from Andover, and each of the companies we buy from is different. They offer different things. That depends on their production and what they produce. So on Andover, with their Edita collections, they always offer strips, squares, and we always cut half yards and fat quarter bundles in stock. We cut those here at Fat Quarter Shop, and we always do half yard bundles for Edita's collections because she's a really strong seller. And she always, each of her collections throughout the years will mix and match, but also stand alone. This one's really cute, it's little pins. And that is like a sawtooth star. Yeah, you can kind of see it. And then this is a gray navy. So it's got some, this has kind of got a muddier tone than some of her other collections. But you can see with all of Edita's beautiful patterns, she designs her fabric to go with those patterns so that when you get, if you make one of her patterns, it's always just like a huge rainbow of colors, and you're gonna get that unique look that you wouldn't get with, you know, just a red, white, and blue collection. So that is Sewing Basket. This is Strawberry Emery by Pam Buda for Marcus Fabrics. And so Pam Buda is a designer of reproduction fabrics, and she usually does 1,800 reproductions. And the other day when Marcus Fabrics came, they had a collection that was like kind of wild, and it's hers. And so I'm interested to see how it does. It's more like reds that are really bright, blacks, yellows, some colors she's never done. So that'll be interesting. Off the top of my head, I can't think of the name of it, of course. But Pam Buda, we always cut half yards and fat quarters because her fabric also sells really well. So if you ever see something on our site that has a half yard bundle, that automatically tells you that we sell a lot of that. That sometimes you guys ask, how do you decide? We make what sells, and based on what our cost. And to me, that means we're catering and cutting what you guys are looking forward to the most. This is Floral Song by Lewis and Irene. Lewis and Irene is a really cool company from England. It's a mother and father, and I think the daughter does all of the designs. But now they have designers now that they've gotten bigger, and this designer is Cassandra Connolly. But it's really cool because it's a father-daughter duo. And their fabric is called what Kevin and I would consider one and done. You buy it once, you can never reorder it. So when we order it, it's kind of, you get what you get and you cannot reorder at any point. So this is one of those companies. Now also, similar, this is Circa Purple. I don't think they go together that well, but some of them, the lighter ones do. This is Circa Purple by Wyndham Fabrics. And so these are kind of a darker purple, and I want you guys to know I've been buying a lot more purple. You guys went crazy when I bought the Lori Holt purple, and ever since then I have been buying more purple because it's obvious that you guys wanted more purple, and hopefully I'm not over purpling you guys. And then Camelot Fabrics is also one and done. You buy it once, you can't get it again. This is called Star Wars Light and Dark. So it's dark side. I'm not even going to pretend I know what any of this is because I don't. Like, is that a cloud? I have no idea what any of this is. You are too cool. I'm a Wookiee. Is that a person? I don't know what that is. Wookiee is what? Wookiee? Wookiee is a Wookiee? Okay. No idea. And then Winnie the Pooh, you know, it's really funny because I don't watch movies. I never have. And I don't know a thing about pop culture. Sometimes people are just like, how do you not know? And I'm just like, I have no idea. Like, I just don't. Sometimes, even my kids, they're behind me. He can hear me talking about, they tell us stuff and we're like, what are you even talking about? Like, Kevin and I are so clueless. So this is Tigger. This is Winnie the Pooh, All About Me. And the heirloom red, I don't think it would match with the red. I don't think heirloom red would match Primitive Gatherings. I think some of the burgundies would, but the lighter ones will not. So I would say some, but not all. A super chat. So somebody asked what a super chat is, and that is just when people want to give a little donation to the channel, and then we shout out your name, and the money just goes to equipment. Like behind us, we've got 1, 2, 3. I mean, like we got 1 million lights in here. We got 1 million cameras. We have, it just basically, and we have a lot of people in here and we're paying their salary. So yeah, it just pays for just producing the show. Have I had any trouble with my pins getting a rough spot along the length of the pin? What would cause this? I have not. I would say make sure you're not getting starch on there in terms of wet starch, but I haven't had an issue with that. I had these pins I used for like 20 years and they were like Clover or Dritz and they discontinued them. I still have some of those. And then I have some Little House pins, and those are the only 2 brands that I use. I do use the other one with the magic pins. The ones that are super thin at the end, Sherry told me about them, so I do use those, but I've never had a problem with any of those 3 brands, so I can only speak on those 3 brands. So we're gonna do a giveaway. The giveaway is gonna be 3 winners are gonna get this. So 3 winners will get 2 charm packs and 2 mini charm packs, and I kind of put that together just because I thought you could make something and use the tutorial that I just showed you. You could make half square triangles with either one of these, cut them down, use that same technique, and just have fun making something super patchworky. You have until Thursday, February 22nd to enter. We're gonna pick winners next Friday, February 23rd. To enter the giveaway, we want you to comment after the video and let me know what you thought of our Stronger Together guests so that they can see all of you guys' love for them. I think that's amazing. And make sure you join me next week. I hope all of you have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week.